Hey world, brothers and sisters. I'm Brother Paul with the Universal Peace Officers. And I've got something I want to share today about what's going on in the world. And I want to refer to an Einstein quote. And Einstein said that the world won't be overcome by evil people. It'll be overcome by good people who stand and do nothing. And it's phrased a couple different ways, but we're not going to be overcome by evil. We're going to be overcome by the good people who do nothing in the face of evil. And if you guys are like me and you see what's going on in the world, it's crazy, and we really don't know what to do. You know, if you look at Hollywood, and then you look at the world, and ask yourself, is the world more like a movie? And Hollywood's more like reality? And what I mean by that is you watch what they do and say in Hollywood through the messaging that they have done over the last 30, 40, 50, 60 years, and especially today. The predictive programming, the things that you see. And then if you look at the world and what's going on, and you don't know what's true and what's not. So it's almost like we're living in a movie. And we don't know who the real enemy is. We don't know who the real evil is. We don't know who the real good people are. Unless we take time and get quiet and get still and ask God to give us discernment and kind of slow down the noise around us so that we can hear the Spirit inside of us. My son and I were talking last night, and he made reference to some of the characters, people, heroes in the Bible, whether it's David, Moses, Samson, all imperfect men who did wonderful things for God. You know, Peter comes to mind. There's so many. And it gave my son a little bit of thought like, you know, Dad, we're imperfect too, but God can use us. And we look at the people who rule our country, our world, our cities, our towns, our school boards. And if we look at things on the local level, because that's how we can impact what's going on in the world, and it's hard by watching all the TV and all the ads with all the election seasons coming up, because everybody's pointing fingers at what this one did wrong and what that one did wrong and what they're going to do different. So there's just a lot of noise and information, misinformation, disinformation, and it's hard to know what the real truth is. So, you know, what God's taught me is, you know, when you look at a tree, you examine the fruit. So let's look at some of the past administrations, whether it's local or national, in the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And then look at the fruit of their administration. Look at what has happened or what has not happened. I keep going back to the border, to the children, and to the First Amendment. And if you look at some of the past administrations and you look at what happened in those areas during the time of those people in power, not by what they said, but what actually happened. Let's look at the fruit of their work. So think about that for a minute. Take a look at the fruit of the work of some of the past administrations, the current administration, and ask yourself, which administration bore good fruit for the people? Which administration protected the border and the sovereignty of our country? Which one took care of the children? Which one allowed us to have free speech? And if we're looking for a perfect man or administration to relieve us from this, we're never going to have it, because nobody's perfect. But if we look at the fruit of what they did, not what they said, but what they did and what was accomplished and what they stood for, I think you might start to see some things. So as we look into the election season, from the local level to a state level to a country level, we've got to vet the people that we're voting for at all these different levels of government and see what they're doing. I believe there's a small percentage of evil that's over everything, and I think it's made some people do some things that they don't know they're doing. I'm not saying the whole administration in our is bad, but I'm saying there's people that have been coerced and been corrupted, and the enemy's using them, and they may not even know it, because money and power and the love of money can really change people. So when you see people and that have been in power 20, 30, 40, 50 years in different areas, different cities in our country, and you kind of look at what's going on in those cities. Well, these people have been doing this for 30, 40 years, and it's messed up as ever, but they're blaming the other side. That's back to the Hollywood and the world. What's real and what isn't. It's hard to tell, man. It's crazy. So as I go and I try to, our mission in our ministry is to try to spread peace, love, and compassion through prayer. And our goal is to try to teach people how to take care of their mind, body, and spirit so that they can love God, love themselves, and love others. And then we want to try to spread peace, love, and compassion through prayer. And we want to pray that God will fill us individually with peace, love, and compassion. Fill our family and friends with peace, love, and compassion. Fill all the earth and all of humanity with peace, love, and compassion. And as I go through life and I try to be one of the good people that stands up, even though I'm imperfect, but I'm going to stand up and say, I see this evil that I believe is evil, and I'm going to stand up and I'm not going to be silent. Adam was silent. To me, that's the first sin, that he was silent when Eve was being coerced by the serpent in the garden and ate of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So it's kind of hard to understand everything because there's so much, but I can understand a little. And I can understand that God wants me to spend time with him to give me the peace so that I can then share that peace with others. And as I was going through my reading this morning, I do some devotionals and things every day. I kept hearing a common theme in what I was reading. So I want to share a couple things with you. And it kind of gave me a little bit of affirmation that I'm kind of heading in the right direction, that I got to stand up and speak out about what I believe is evil and what's going on, and I'm not going to be one of those good men who do nothing. And I'm going to try to encourage all my family and friends and other people out there, if God put something in your heart, to take time and ask him, God, what do you want me to do with my life, with what you've given me, with the tools and the talents and the treasures you've given me? How can I use that to help the craziness that's going on? I don't want to be somebody who stands still and does nothing while our country is torn apart and destroyed by globalist agendas and not allow us to take care of our own house. And a couple of the things that came to me in my devotionals this morning, one's out of Colossians, okay? And it says, therefore, all as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other and forgive one another. As any of you has a grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord forgave you. And over all these virtues put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, since as members of one body you were called to peace. And then another one of my devotionals was out of Peter, and it says, but you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of the darkness, who called you into his wonderful light. Once you were not a people, but now you are the people of God. And once you had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. And I believe that God invites us all to be his chosen people. And what we have to do is freely accept the gift of grace, mercy, and peace that he's given us. Spend some time with him and get grounded and get centered and ask him to give us discernment in the craziness of what's going on in the world, guys. Take some time today and be still and ask God to show you what he wants you to do with what you have in your life. And look at the fruit of the people that you may be voting for in every different level of the elections, because it starts local. We got to look out locally, school boards and city councils and all those things. And then on the national front, we got to do the same thing. Let's look at who's taken us to war, who hasn't, who's secured the border, who hasn't, who's taken care of the children, who hasn't, who's given us the right to have free speech, and who's taken it away. Use some discernment, guys. Ask God to give you wisdom. But most importantly, pray for the cause. God, fill me with peace, love, and compassion. God, fill my family and friends with peace, love, and compassion. God, fill all the earth and all of humanity with peace, love, and compassion. God bless America. Peace.